Hello everyone, I'm NTom64.
I'm the Flameclaw.
And I'm ex-gamer Richy.
And welcome to the HellfireComms playthrough of Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. Now Wikipedia describes this as like an art-adventure game of sorts. I guess you could call it that, but really what it is a walking simulator. So, Flame, I'm kind of perplexed as to why you'd bring this to the table. Is there anything special about it that you feel like a group of nerds could contribute to the overall narrative and whatnot? Because it is a very narrative-driven game. In fact, you said it was like the works of David Cage, only scaled back all the more.
Well, in terms of like the gameplay style, I know a lot of people hear the term walking simulator as you described it in the intro. A lot of people would see that as a derogatory thing. I personally disagree with that. I don't think it's an inherently flawed way of presenting a game because, it is ultimately just another platform for telling this story that we're going to be seeing. I know, people will be quite cynical going into it, to a certain degree of, it's not a game, and I can see that.
Yeah, 75% of them have turned off the video already, mate. You're losing them.
Yeah, well, I just sort of affectionately refer to these as not games, even though they're interactive still. But ultimately, I picked out this game because I think there is a lot of interesting stuff that we'll be able to see. At the very least, it's an intriguing game in terms of the world we're going to see, which, when the colour comes back in here in just a few, you'll see just how beautiful this little village can be.
Oh, very idyllic, as it were. And I guess the conceit for the game is, and you can probably tell this just by the title of the game, we follow the lives of, I believe, 6 or so people on the lead up to the Rapture itself. Is that right, Floyd?
Yeah, each of the parts of this, we're going to be seeing the perspective sort of from all these different characters. It does actually have a sort of non-linear story. You can go and see things out of order, which does happen if you get lost, which I'll get more into that when we get into the game proper. But ultimately we just sort of see the lives of these people unfold in front of us. But first things first, yes, this is the gameplay, what I am demonstrating to you right here.
Well, it is definitely living up to the walking sim part of the description.
Yes.
Where is this set exactly, country-wise?
This is set in England in a fictional town that's meant to be within Shropshire called Yaughton.
Ah.
Mm-hmm.
It is your very stereotypical, far out in the sticks sort of village, which, as someone who doesn't live anywhere near that but has spent some time in places like that before, around relatives and that, I can say it is quite accurate, in terms of the setting.
Well, I mean, even if you just watch films set in these types of places, this does seem very accurate so far, and even just looking at the way the fencing's set up and the little power station or whatever it was, it's just recognise that in a jiffy.
I was expecting it to be a lot more mundane than this. I'm assuming what we're seeing here is memories.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because one of this game's biggest points that you'll either love or despise it for is there's a very ambiguous method of storytelling here. We're not exactly sure how we're seeing this. It's presented with these sort of characters flashing in lights as though it's a sort of flashback, but we'll probably contextualise that a bit better later on in the game.
Okay.
But this is the game's general art style in terms of how it shows the characters. You see them popping up, and I kind of think it works as a way of making you think about it, that we never actually see these characters' faces. The entire game is told to us through the flashing lights on screen and the dialogue, and so what I will say is if you're playing this, always have subs on, just so you don't get confused.
I apologise for not having any in the other game we're currently running, The Simpsons Hit and Run. That's just because it was a very old game, and I'm too lazy to put custom ones in, so there you go.
Well, I mean, to be fair, that can get quite difficult. So, I mean, it's one of the joys of modern gaming is that everyone realised, yeah, you do kind of need subtitles in gaming because people do like those.
I gotta say, this is gonna be interesting for Richie and I specifically, because we haven't actually sat through Everybody's Gone to the Rapture before. I know, Richie, you knew a little bit about Until Dawn, but you're completely in the dark for this one, aren't you?
I am indeed. I mean, basically, all that I've got to go on is that I seem to recall it was reasonably well received when it came out. And also the title of Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, and that's basically
Yeah.
everything I know about this game.
Well, the title kind of tells you what you need to know to go into this, really, if you think about it.
You do that, Bob, and I'll personally deliver it for you.
What I think this game does quite well, beyond like just the main characters that it focuses on, the 6 main ones who each have their own chapters, we also get to spend quite a lot of time with these minor recurring characters. Like we've got the Dr. Wade here, just sort of alluding to that something's going on, people are sort of running away, you know. It's the kind of thing where that in itself complements the name, because like we know the sort of where we are, what's gonna happen, and that's a good way to kind of build us into wanting to answer the questions that we've now got. And this is a particular mechanic that we'll see a lot of. If you ever hear like a ringing phone or something buzzing or like a radio signal, it means that there's one of these things like, say, a phone or a radio that you can go and get a little bit more information.
Yeah, this is how payphones work in the UK. They're stored in little glass houses, as it were.
Somehow they just have these pre-recorded messages. That works, right?
It's in the phones? What, is that like an electronic virus or something?
It doesn't matter. We are kind of sort of post-Rapture, I'm assuming, because obviously nobody's actually here. We're sort of seeing past, but sort of maybe not. I don't know. So anything goes, it seems, with telephone boxes and the phones in them giving out random messages, which they physically cannot do. Oh, that's a very, very good bus stop, although to be fair, that looks a little too nice.
It's not smashed in for starters.
Yeah.
This is a, respectable area. This isn't like, some London kicked-in bus stop, like, graffiti everywhere. Although there is some graffiti.
Nottingham at 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
Idea sound. You just got the number slightly wrong.
Don't patronize me.
I'm not patronizing you. I think you are a brilliant man, Dr. Appleton.
These two are two of the most important characters in the game, Stephen and Kate. They're researchers, as we just saw alluding to. They're kind of... You think they're scientists in this little village. They're the ones that sort of stick out like a sore thumb here. Especially given you can hear in her voice that Kate's American as well, so...
I thought so. I heard patronising and I just sort of cringed.
It's pronounced patronising, thank you very much.
Indeed.
Steven.
Not entirely sure how to feel about having characters represented as glowing lights. Was it meant to be like that so you can't fully connect to them, to add a kind of ambiguous sort of feel to them?
I think what they're going for is, because as Richy mentioned, you can tell that this is post-Rapture. Like, it's kind of leaving a sense of emptiness that they're not here anymore. You're just kind of seeing like things that have been left behind in a way. It's kind of this is where the game's ambiguity that I was talking about really comes into play, that you're trying to piece together, but anything I say will more than likely be my own theorising here.
Okay.
We've got another little country village staple. We've got the pub.
Oh, yeah.
This is a very nice pub, I have to say.
It's beautiful, yeah.
I'm just looking around to see if I can find any, like, clues and whatnot.
Well, I'm very disappointed. Like, I don't think I saw a rifle above the bar, and that just makes me feel really sad because I can't make the amazing Shaun of the Dead reference that I really, really would like to.
I can't believe the ale of the day is 50p. Get in, lads. The recession has not hit us yet.
You can tell that they've really done their research when it comes to designing the general world here, can't you? Because this is, like I said, this is just spot on for a little country village.
I'm feeling a little bit homesick, to be honest. I've never really lived in a country place before. I've lived in Nottingham all my life.
People here, they don't really understand what you do up there.
even if you've never lived in a country village, it's still looking, at least to me, very resolutely England. Well, United Kingdom. Whether it's still the United Kingdom in a few years' time is a different matter. Bit too political. But yeah, it's very British in terms of its design. And I'm looking at this and thinking, this could be a village in the UK, and that is actually mind-blowing, because even though most games that are set in England or what have you do a decent job, this is the first time I've ever actually seen a game where I'm actually just like, that actually looks like a real village in the UK.
Well, I suppose there was The Getaway, but that was set in London, you know?
Yeah.
So what time period exactly is this set in, Flame? If it's been brought up before, I obviously was not paying attention.
Seems to be like the past, but it's kind of hard to pinpoint down exactly when.
Yeah, because one of the characters back there made note that, oh, a lady doctor, whatever will they think of next, or whatever.
Yeah, that is one of the things that it exaggerates how just absolutely out of place Kate feels in this particular village.
Getting kind of Fallout vibes here, actually.
Dr. Wade, here you are. There's a queue of patients a mile long out there.
Just send them to the village.
Where are the voices coming from? I can't see any swirly lights apart from... Oh! There they are!
Abel's just called me and said her husband's vanished. She was very
Right, now if we take that computer to mean anything, I suspect we're looking at sort of the 80s, perhaps the 90s.
Yeah, 80s sounds like... You know, you can classify it as the past without getting too anachronistic.
Follow the instructions on the radio.
Dr. Phil.
And considering there is a computer there, that's basically the only reason that I'm saying it would be about the 80s, because that is when that type of... I say that type of computer, I can't even decipher what type of computer that is, but the general gist, that's what it... rough time frame.
Okay, she said your nose, and there's blood all over the keyboard and whatnot, and I'm not really sure what I'm seeing on this monitor here.
That, I know what that is, but you'll figure out more about that in time.
Is there anything, more scary than, unseen dread? You don't know where the source of the bad things are exactly, but you know it's coming, and you can't stop it.
Yeah, it's very eerie, isn't it? Especially given how desolate this area is, given we're seeing here after NToms. But this you get your answer about the blood straight away.
I mean, to be fair, it was kind of slightly obvious where the blood was coming from, because obviously there was the whole thing of the flu at the pub. So obviously people were having nasal issues, so obviously massive nosebleeds.
I'm going to pretend I understand what these words mean.
Well, give me a second, I'll be able to tell you what the hypothalamus is.
Similar setup here to how I record HFC-comms. Honestly, I'm sitting in a car right now in the 1980s, just to really immerse myself in everybody's gone to the Rapture.
You're in the car, you're shouting. Is that why the old commentaries used to be too fucking loud to hear?
Yeah, pretty much. I should just turn the engine off, really.
Well, I mean, some of the old Skype ones were of that quality that you were driving
we
in a
don't
car.
talk about those anymore, thank you.
Right, do you want to know what the hypothalamus is?
Please do.
Yeah, go for it.
So, it's a portion of the brain that contains a number of small nuclei with a variety of functions. One of the most important functions of the hypothalamus is to link the nervous system to the endocrine system via the pituitary gland.
Now I understand so much more.
So basically it's responsible for certain metabolic processes and other activities of the autonomic nervous system. So it deals with hormones and also controls body temperature, hunger, important aspects of parenting and attachment behaviours, thirst, fatigue, sleep, and a certain type of weird rhythm, which I think is circadian rhythm.
Was that meant to be the infinity symbol on the door, Flame?
It's a sort of little motif going on. It's not entirely explained, I don't recall, but we'll be seeing it around. It gets painted on the doors and shit.
Fair enough.
What Dr. Wade was talking about in the car then, that's essentially the foundations of like the main plot points of this game, and he was describing his own health problems with what Richy just described, along with how he saw like hallucinations of a liquid light.
Take your point about Stephen.
And in a way, what we're seeing here sort of looks like liquid light. I think that's kind of why they went with this, but I think as a foundation to introduce the plot point, the fact that we know this is the Doctor who doesn't know what it is, that just adds that extra level of eeriness, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, because, if the people responsible for taking care of other people's well-being can't figure it out, what chance do us plebs have, really, to survive?
But just then talking, we add a little bit of Jeremy. We saw Jeremy in the previous conversation outside the pub as well. He's the sort of central figure in this first chapter, and he is a priest, or is the vicar of the church.
Okay.
So that's why he's kind of around everywhere, because these sort of little villages, a lot of people are religious, and it's just the way of life, really, and if there's a problem, you talk to the vicar.
Yeah, for sure.
So we do see a lot of him about.
God, there's not even any animals about. That's extra creepy, especially for, like, a village place.
All the animals would have went as well, wouldn't they?
Well, I mean, I suppose that depends on what you look at the Rapture as being. I mean, I suppose in most interpretations it would be all life, but I'm pretty certain there are certain strains that would see it as being only humanity. Because it's that whole thing of, do animals have souls? And that debate.
Oh man, I didn't realise we were going to be asking the big questions in part 1 of the playthrough.
We're dealing with the Rapture. This is going to happen. You have to get deeply theological.
What, the Rapture's going to happen? Oh, what's even the fucking point of doing Let's Plays then?
No, it actually happened in 2012, just hell looks a lot like making YouTube LPs.
Oh no, that was when that one wrestler guy, he took the bullet and just fucking kicked it out of the stratosphere.
I will say the soundtrack of this game is probably one of my favourite video game soundtracks, just because of how perfectly it complements the gameplay itself. Just you're wandering along and you hear them little tones like after that conversation just then, and it's just sort of trailing on that little bit after it, just to add that bit of intensity to what's going on here.
It's very... I don't really know how to describe it. There's a lot of choir mixed in there, which lends itself to the religious overtones, I suppose.
Yeah, it's that sort of choral... Almost, well, it's not quite operatic, but it sits in that choral opera sphere of singing, which, yeah, I think does work quite well in the context that we're looking at. But I would have to certainly hear more of it to make a proper judgment of the quality of the soundtrack.
It was composed by Jessica Curry, who is also like one of the, I think, like a director or writer. She's definitely heavily involved with the telling of the story here. And she also did the soundtrack for Dear Esther, which is another Chinese room game, which I haven't actually played that game, but I probably will end up checking that out, given how much I came to appreciate this.
Well, we'll see how this playthrough is received, and if people like it, we'll do more. If they don't, we'll do more, because it's our channel, goddammit.
Well, Flame, you know how you were saying about Jessica Curry being the composer for the game? She actually won a BAFTA in 2016 for the score of this game.
That doesn't surprise me. It's an incredibly powerful soundtrack. I can see why people cling to it.
God, the lighting in this game is amazing. Like, just the graphical style alone is nice, but the way everything's lit is like, it's nice and warm during, well-lit scenes, but the darkness as well is pretty great and murky, especially in the blood-covered bathroom, which I may not have commented on at the time, but I definitely took in. Oh boy, did I ever take it in.
Every now and then you'll see all the shadows moving, and that's just like a progression of time as it's moving on a few steps forward, closer to the time. And it's just, I do like that. It just, it moves you along while not taking you out of the game.
I thought it was the lighting system bugging out, honestly, but I'll take you at your word.
Part of that is a problem with the game's performance. That's the weakest point for the game, because the performance is kind of wank in this. It can jump between about 40 down to 17 as you turn. So I just sort of rendered this off at 30 and tried to keep a happy medium here.
What's that on the ground by the guy on the right?
More bloody tissues.
Christ.
This is where Jeremy's gone to visit someone who... It seems like they were trying to get out of the village, but her husband got ill, suddenly, and that's why they came back.
I know we shouldn't have, but we just came in to clean up the kids and...
Oh god, not the kids as well.
And then Neil and I started bleeding as well, and... It's all over my blouse. Everyone was so tired.
I'm sure I want to cover this anymore.
This is just the basic stuff here.
We're upstairs.
So, but basically what I'm getting from this is everyone got sick because God's a dick and thought, well, you know what, I'm just going to make everyone really ill before I go take them somewhere.
So Neil took them.
That's a possible interpretation. As I was saying, everything does come down to interpretation, so that's why I'm kind of interested to hear how you guys read this.
Never came back.
Well, I mean, it does very much seem, so far at least, like the type of game that does invite that. And I suppose, considering this is basically all the game is, I suppose that's really... It's one of those games where you get as much out of it as you put in.
Remember the angle we're looking from right now? We're looking at this particular chapter following the story of the vicar, and so he's kind of gives you that particular mindset. That might change as we go along, depends on what you take from it.
Okay, so it's just like Sonic Adventure DX in that we see certain scenes from different angles.
Yeah, the Rapture is actually caused by Perfect Chaos thing, you know.
Oh, son of a bitch.
I suspect a slightly better example would probably be Near Automata, or Automata, or whatever, however you want to pronounce it.
Near Tomato, yes.
Because that game also has, well, it has multiple stories, but they're all told from different perspectives. And I haven't gone too far into the second route of the game, but already I'm noticing a distinct difference in how I'm perceiving the situation, just by pure virtue of being with a different character.
That was very polite of you to close the gate behind you, Flame. I don't think it's really going to matter in the grand scheme of things.
Well, you know, everyone's dead, but there might still be, a future civilization that spawns out of nowhere, and they might be pissed I left the gate open.
I'm not buying into a fucking cursed community. Nuke it, start over.
But that's effort, then you got to rebuild the whole thing.
Yeah, you got to wait for the radiation to die off as well, and Chernobyl's still not fit to live in, so yeah. My plan was flawed from the start, really.
It's all over the village. It's got into everything. It's so fast.
What are you talking about?
It's travelling down the wires.
Oh, this is interesting. Kind of goes back to the phone message we heard.
It's in the phones. What could it be?
It's mine.
Maybe it's some sort of toad. I was thinking it was a biological virus to begin with.
Oh god, no. It's starting to manifest itself everywhere.
But yeah, what we're getting here is Stephen obviously knows that something's up, and you can see the dropped pot of paint there, so it was clearly him going around graffitiing all the front doors, possibly as a warning. That's kind of what I read from that conversation just then.
Yeah, I can see that. If you want to make it biblical and whatnot, there was the thing where... I forget who it was exactly, but God was coming to kill the firstborns, so people marked their doors with, I think, lamb's blood or whatever,
Yeah.
And whoever had their doors marked was spared, and whoever didn't, they had their firstborns taken in the night.
Wasn't that in the story of Moses?
Yes, it was. Prince of Egypt, if you want to be plebeian about it.
Yes. Yeah, that would sound about right, I think. But also, what I'm getting, sort of, is because of the way the paint splattered on the ground. Obviously, it manifests itself in that weird design. I wonder if also part of Stephen's plan, if he was indeed the one painting, or taking the paint around with him, to see where this disease, shall we call it, was spreading. Because it seems like if it's manifesting itself into that pattern, then whatever it is there. Whereas if it's just normal paint, it'd just sort of be painted normal, if you get my gist.
I can see what you mean, yeah.
Can you hear me? Are you out there, you bastard?
Where are you, you bastard? Are you in the church?
Well, this is actually quite powerful because it's got to the point where the vicar's like getting frustrated at God because he can't quite work out why all of this stuff's happening, and he's just having a proper breakdown outside the church now.
Jesus Christ.
Well, I mean, to be fair, wouldn't you wonder about your own faith when everyone around you is getting killed off killed off, I'm not quite sure, but afflicted by this bizarre disease and whatever the hell it's doing to people? Like, that would make you question a lot, especially considering the whole thing of God is that God is good and he has a plan for everyone and he heals and that sort of stuff. At least that's probably more the Christian version of God, but this is when you start going into all the different variants of how people perceive God to be.
Oh, don't give me that church music shit. That puts me on edge more than anything else.
You're gonna love this whole game, mate.
Oh, that's powerful. He said he's got his parishioners to attend to. It just pans round to graves.
I'm trying not to step too close to him out of respect, but it just sort of, to get him in the shot, I kind of had to.
That's fine, man, that's fine.
What we're coming up to now is each character, you see their sort of conclusion, you know, as it happens. And Jeremy's one, as the first one we see, this is one of them sort of whoa sort of moments.
Oh.
Their line has gone out through all the earth. And their words to the end of the world.
Seeing someone like this who you can tell they're so empowered by their faith, like from the earlier parts of the chapter, it sort of sets this, I'm not sure the word, maybe some sort of kind of cognitive disconnect to now see how that in itself has completely broken him here. And you can hear in the voice, can't you, just how weakened he is in this moment.
Oh. Are they coming?
Oh God.
That does not sound human.
Well, that there, he's moved on.
Rest in peace, Jeremy.
I've got to say, them particles there are beautiful. Even if they are probably responsible for it running at like 20 frames sometimes. But yeah, they're beautiful.
Yeah, I have to agree, that was a really, really powerful moment, actually. Like, up until this point, I've kind of been sitting at a sort of sceptical viewpoint, but no, that was beautiful.
Oh, jeez. Follow the lit path, I guess.
Whenever we've seen somebody pass, because the Rapture is the Rapture, we've kind of got to go back in time now.
Well, guys, I guess that's it for Jeremy, but please join us next time in Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, where we take control, I suppose, of another doomed character. See you then.